responsibilities and powers of us as citizens?
Yeah, you see, ideally, that is meant to be the highest public office, the people. Don't forget that in a true democracy, anyone who occupies an elective office is a servant to the public. So, the office of the citizens ought to be the highest and the biggest. And that ought to be the office that actually determines how decisions are made and what kind of decisions should be made. But unfortunately, in our country today, there is no such office. That's the reality. No accountability in governance. That means the elected public officials are not, they don't see themselves to be accountable to the people, because there is an elimination of that office of the citizens. The office of the citizens determines who gets elected through a free and fair electoral process and who is returned to office after the first term. The office of the citizens is that office to which every other person elected is accountable. The office of the citizens represents the general public, the people of Nigeria, the Nigerian populace, the civil society. That is how important the office is and how highly rated it is and how important it is. Thank you.
All right. Okay, comrade, over the years, what has been our attitude as citizens to public officers in Nigeria?
Sorry, repeat your question. I didn't hear you clearly.
I said, over the years, what has been the general attitude of citizens to people who occupy public office in Nigeria?
Oh yeah, very nonchalant attitude. I don't care attitude. We don't belong there. Yeah, that's what I'm explaining to you.
Okay.
Apart from this recently conducted election, you know, the recently conducted election was to like a lot of people mysterious because of the way they saw people, you know, suddenly, you know, coming up to be interested in politics and in elections. For the very first time, people were really wondering what was this all about. They saw in people that enthusiasm, that interest to be part of the process that will select their leaders. Now, it has been dormant for so many years. Reason being that at a point, people lost faith and confidence in governance and in government. That means the people who have always selected themselves to become leaders and who have also been seeing themselves as people that owes no explanation to the public. And now for that reason, a lot of people just believe that the political offices are created to serve as tools for oppression, the oppression of the ordinary people. So they lack interest in the processes and they lack interest in those who are being produced to serve. So they just believe, it has to be, that is, they don't have faith in the system. They don't even believe they can effect any changes. So to them, it's like we have given up on the hope. We have given up on good leadership. We have given up on accountable governance. So let's just take whatever comes our way the way it is. Let me just find what benefits me, what benefits my family. Let me look for my means of survival. That has been the attitude. The attitude has been as a result of the failure of the electoral system to become accountable to the general public like we are having today, where we are having a swearing in. A lot of people still believe the outcome was not what they expected because it was not transparent. You get? So now, that attitude of nonchalance and I don't care, in quote, got orchestrated because of these factors that I explained. So this year, when the revolution came, that the young people for the very first time unprecedentedly became interested in the electoral process, people were happy. The INEC came up with what happened. Suffice me here, I'm not going out of what should be discussed. I'm saying within the scope, because you asked the question and I'm responding. Because why are we having cases in court? Because the rules created were broken by those people who should regulate and enforce and obey the rules. So that's where we are now. With what happened now recently, you say that in the next election, the problem we may have is apathy. People now going back to believe that their votes will not count. And that is why whatever that is happening today, the judiciary should know that the world watches. And whatever is determined should be determined in such a way that it is transparent enough and is satisfactory enough for people to actually get to believe the final outcome. So that is it. So now, in a nutshell, the attitude has been nonchalant, carefree, too carefree, because the people believe they don't belong to the system that have misgoverned them for so many years, and they believe that they have no power to make an impact. But the other positive side of what happened with the revolution we recently witnessed is that a post statement has been made. It shows that the office of the citizen still remains the most powerful office in a democracy. Let me say to you that we saw it at large, that a lot of governors could not even win a senatorial seat. You get what I'm trying to say? Because the citizens spoke through their position. So they have the power of the ballot to stop and to send there. So that is it.
Okay, comrade, virtually everyone agrees that this office is the most powerful office in the land, you inclusive. Now, but to the average occupier of this office, it is just a normal thing. And you hear things that, oh, if we are interested in politics, what use is it? After all, they've made up their mind, they, meaning the government. Now, how do we start? How do we go back to the basics and start afresh? And for example, creating renewed interest in governance and politics.
Now, this question you asked me is very sensitive, and I'm sure it could perhaps be the most important question you could raise, on this program today. To have a renewed hope. Before the last general election, we had a renewed hope. I explained that to you. For the first time, we saw people trooping out in their large numbers to get their PVC. You and I cannot deny that. They had a renewed hope that something good would happen, and that the 2023 election will mark the end and the beginning of a new era. The end of the era of votes not counting, the end of the era of people recycling themselves, even when they have been unproductive in their offices for so long, too long. A lot of people came because they had this renewed hope, because they started hearing inspirational messages that actually portrayed the reality that governance would be cascaded to a new level. Now, that was the hope that actually drove a lot of them to start queuing up for this, returning to the voter registration centers for days, for weeks, to get their PVC. And on the day of elections, these people trooped out. They stood for hours casting their ballots. To think of it that at the end of the day, having undergone these rigorous processes, that their votes did not count. That hope that was renewed got deflated. That is the truth. So now, if you ask me that question now, what we can do for a renewed hope is for the tribunal right now, after the May 29 swearing in, is for the tribunal to sit and give us a very transparent process, and also give us a godly judgment, a godly verdict, or godly judgments of parties, if I want to put it in a plural form, that is driven by a godly conscience, which means calling a spade a spade. If you actually have come out to prove with proofs that Tinubu won, and it's really obvious that he won, then you have renewed the people's hope. If you come out and having analyzed without bias, and you find out that Tinubu did not win, even after he has been sworn in, the judiciary is saying he didn't win, and then the people's hope will be renewed. Then you see the two ways I have put it, that because the people trooped out of votes, and you can bear witness to the fact that the way we had it this year, we never had it like that since Nigeria became an independent state. That people were really ready to be part of the election, because for the first time they trusted that their ballots were their power. But INEC dashed that hope. And I am using that as my point of illustration, not going out of what I know is within your regulation in terms of the speeches I'm making. We all knew that today, a lot of people, if you bring out 10 people from each of the streets, 9 people will tell you, we are not happy with the outcome of the last election. So let the court, judiciary, renew the hope of Nigeria. What I'm saying, I'm not a judge, but what I'm saying is that there is a case before the tribunal. For example, the 25% within the FCT. Let's really explain it based on what the Constitution has said, without anybody trying to, block anything. With the last 25%, let them explain to Nigerians, those of us who have voted, what we don't know about that. Let them interpret it in a way that is so clear, that is done with. You now come to the issue of not transmitting the results, through the papers, based on what we were told, because I fought for that electoral act with my blood, with my money. And at the end of the day, for INEC to violate that is painful to me as a person. And I am also feeling so sad about it. So to renew our hope is to give us a proceeding, legal proceeding, tribunal proceeding that is transparent, that is fair, that is credible, that will lead to a credible verdict or judgment. That is the best way to renew the hope of our people.
All right. If you're just joining us, this is Insight on Citizen FM 93.7. And my guest is Comrade Kennedy Yere. He's a national convener, Civil Society Committee for Anti-Fraud Election Security. And you can also listen to us online on our various social media platforms, on Facebook, on Facebook, and also on the others. Yes, Comrade, you spoke extensively about this renewed hope. Now, there is, for the citizens, especially the younger generation, there is the impression that, politics is dirty, politics is bad, politics is for bad people. And one of the reasons a lot of people come to this conclusion is the virtual absence of internal democracy in our political parties. How do we look at this? Because I know that your committee, you're the national convener of Civil Society Committee for Anti-Fraud Election Security, and I'm sure that you are interested in how people are elected or nominated, even including political parties. So let's, for a while, beam our searchlight on political parties. How do we make it more friendly, more inviting to a lot of citizens?
Yeah, thank you so much. You see, one of the reasons why the office of the citizens has been very dormant and docile is the fact that we have very weak political institutions. Until the citizens take full ownership of political parties, there is nothing much they can actually do other than that with their offices, with their office. Nigeria, for example, runs a kind of a political system where political parties are commercial. You have the owners. You know you better than me in this area, being a media person. Now, if you mention the APC, for example, you know the most powerful governors there in terms of the type of financial support they give, which actually give them the voice. If you mention the PDP, it's the same thing. If you mention Labour Party, it's the same thing. If you mention NNPP, it's the same thing. You know, they run a system where the people with deep pockets fund political parties and take full ownership of those parties. They start first by doing a very erroneous nomination where you have 10 people. Are you there? Coming up to be interested to run for a senatorial seat, 10 people. And you and I know among the 10 people, Mr. Jacob is the best and the most qualified person, the most competent person, the most capable person is Mr. Jacob. But they look at Mr. Jacob and they say, oh, this man has been a banker. So he rose to become the MD of so bank, and then he retired. Now he wants to get into politics. They tell you don't have the political experience. They have forgotten that the banking system is one of the most competitive systems or sectors of any economy. So for you to have risen to that level of the CEO, your experience combined, when compared to that of 10 governors, you have a better experience than the 10 of them put together. But they look at it, oh, this one is not gastric enough. This one is not corrupt enough. This is a clean man from the private sector. Now, you now have one or two governors interested in someone who is the chairman of the Agberos, for example, and the governor will just tell you that person is my candidate. For the fact that the person is a shareholder, not stakeholder now, shareholder like a commercial venture, he tells you, we have had some Senate statement like that in Nigeria. A governor will come and say, you know what, I was financing this party when the party crumbled and the party was not the ruling party. Meaning the party didn't produce the president. So then we had about 10 governors where my state was the state that was spending the biggest amount of money. So for that reason, the clean noble man from the banking sector has no such a political godfather or a cabal within the party to front for him. You imagine what they do, you can imagine what they do then is reflecting and preferring or giving preference to the chairman of the Agberos over and above, although that man who, with his own clean performance through the banking sector, who has everything it will take to transform, the political landscape. Now, you see at the end of the day, don't forget that it is the political party under our system who determines the outcome of most of their primaries. I'm saying that to you as one of the biggest leaders, one of the biggest civil society leaders in Africa. We see that the outcome of most of those primaries are predetermined. And now, before people go voting, they have a way they select them. I hope you know the delegates that will come and do the voting, the register containing the delegates. These are things that the party can either choose to reveal or not to reveal. So, allowing that to play out has already eliminated the function of the office of the citizen. Now, when they now end up producing the wrong people, the citizens will have no choice than to choose who they feel is the best among the wrong people, and they cast their votes, because it is who the party presents that will be on the ballot to be voted for. So now if we must make an input, the citizens should advocate to be made co-owners of those political parties in such a way that the funding of parties should not be coming from the pockets of some selected few aristocrats. It should be coming from the pockets of the general public, like you have in advanced countries, where people donate a bit, and then the money is enough to actually finance the activities of the political parties. And number two, the bogus lifestyle of the chairmen and national officials of political parties should be something that the citizens should agitate against. I'm telling you, if you see some chairmen of political parties and their convoy, if you see the secretaries of some political parties and their convoy, if you see even the convoy of the chief of staff to the chairman of some political parties, you will marvel. Until we go back to start fixing things right, by citizens now first having interest in political parties and belonging to those political parties, especially in terms of their bonding, we will never get it right.
Okay, Comrade, we need to take a break now, and we will return after this short break. Please just stay tuned. Insight will return in a moment. Please don't go away.
Let's talk about it on our favorite radio station. Talk to us on 93.7 Citizen FM. Talk to us on 93.7 Citizen FM. Abuja.
93.7 Citizen FM.
Let's talk about it on our favorite radio station.
We're more than just a radio station. We are a part of your life.
Thank you for staying tuned. Welcome back to Insight on Citizen FM 93.7. My name is Lawrence UMOETTE, and my guest is standing by, Comrade Kennedy Iyere, National Convener, Civil Society Committee for Anti-Fraud Election. And what are we talking about on Insight today? We are examining the occupier of that special office, the most powerful office in the country, the office of the citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. As a citizen, what are your rights? What are your responsibilities? What are your obligations? And so many other things. And that's what we've been looking at. You can join the discussion on our live stream on YouTube by typing in Citizen FM 93.7. And also you can listen to us online on www.citizenfm.ng, and you'll be part of the show. You can also join our social media platforms on Facebook at Citizen FM Abuja, and also on Instagram at Citizen FM 937. Not forgetting Twitter at Citizen FM 937. And the phone lines are also open. You can call us on 0818 205. That's 0818 205. And you can also send us a WhatsApp message on that particular number. Let us know where you're writing from so that we will be able to address the situation. Once again, it's still Insight on Citizen FM 93.7. Comrade Yere, thank you for standing by.
Thank you.
Yes, Comrade, you spoke extensively about how political parties can bring people on board and de-emphasize the use of money. But Comrade, sincerely speaking, over the years, with the experience of election coverage and even participation of some processes, do you really think there will ever be that time that money will not play a major role in our electoral process?
Well, there is no electoral process that does not need money to effect its effectiveness and its good completion. But the way and manner we go about it here is what makes it wrong. In developed climes, people donate money to support those vying for offices. The difference between what is sustainable there and what is sustainable here is that the few aristocrats, the bourgeois or bourgeoisies, those who have instituted themselves in government as the biggest economic benefactors, invest in the electoral processes, expecting political dividends in terms of contract rewards or financial rewards. That is where our own is bad. But we just cannot fold our hands and watch. If you look at what happened recently to the obedient movement, you saw the People's Army. You saw the People's Army. If the Labour Party had organized itself a little bit better, no matter what they are seeing today to be what went wrong with the processes on the part of INEC, if the Labour Party had stepped up their game a little bit, if they had embraced the support groups of Peter Obi early enough and integrate or assimilate them into their own system, there is no force that could have been able to rig them out. So that tells you that the office of the citizen still remains the most powerful. And I can tell you that in 2027, they will get it right. Watch and see. So what you are asking me, we have already seen it played out. That from nowhere, listening, from nowhere, I was part of those who formed that revolution. In fact, not just was part of, the major person actually. We formed that movement with nobody in our minds. Nobody on our minds. Peter Obi was not in the picture. Nobody was in the picture. Because that was the proliferation of a lot of support movements The person who actually was the grand commander is Professor Patutomi, because it was the third force revolution, the third force movement that gave birth to all of the other movements that you saw. But then, when Peter came out, he started saying something that we really needed to hear, like moving Nigeria from consumption to production. We saw the need to embrace him, embracing him as the man we believe will have the key to unlock our economic potentials, so that the good life we envisage for ourselves will become a reality. That was when the clamor for Peter to be given the candidacy of the PDP started, which they didn't hit to. Then Peter now left the PDP through the input of people like me too, and then came into the system and later on clinched his tent with the Labour Party. But I am telling you, don't forget that Labour Party was lifeless, was dormant, was docile. In that docility, then when Peter picked that party, the movement surrounded Peter. And that was when you started hearing obedient, because we now have to accept and adopt Peter. Peter Obi didn't contribute one couple. What I'm trying to tell you is that without money, the people's money is the real money you need to run politics. The people's, you saw what I just told you, the Labour Party has stepped up, if they were at all prepared, I'm telling you up to 25%. By today, we would have had a change outcome. So now, I'm sorry I'm not taking part outside. What I'm trying to explain to you is using the reality we have witnessed to buttress the fact or point that it is possible that the people can actually from nowhere use their own small money. And before you know it, it's an ocean of money and drive whichever candidate that they wanted to drive. And from the people's pocket, you saw how the whole thing played out. That a party like Labour Party that nobody ever gave an opportunity. You see the number of people they have elected into the Senate, into the House of Representatives. So
all right.
By 2027, by the grace of God, the revolution is going to be sustained by people like us. They just have to pick up to 4 parties.
Okay.
Pick up to 4 parties. When you pick up to 4 parties, if you pick up to 4 parties, then by not aligning the movement to one particular party, we have more results.
All right, comrade.
And that is the way to go.
Comrade, we need to move on. Another aspect of the role of the citizen of the Federal Republic is what a lot of literature has written about, and that's the recruitment process of candidates into political parties who eventually stand for election and eventually become elected to serve the people. People have over the years written about these processes, and that most of the time when you get it wrong at the recruitment stage, you've gotten it wrong completely. How do we galvanize this citizen to take more active part in the recruitment process?
Thank you so much. The only favor I will seek of you is to allow me use what I have experienced in the field to educate us on how we can achieve this. Do you get what I'm saying?
Well, as far as it's on this subject, you can go on.
Yeah, it's on this subject.
Okay.
What you have just said now was still what played out. I'll tell you this. The biggest mistake of the 2023 was that when the movement, the revolution started, they were too quick to just go and get the Labour Party because Peter went there. Now, like I said, what they should have done was to look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 political parties and be part of the processes that would really determine who becomes the flag bearers of those political parties at the various level of contest. You understand what I'm trying to say? Let me explain to you what I'm saying. Now, you saw that in 2023 we had a big movement, but we were not really interested in how the candidates emerged. We left those ones in the hands of the political parties. Now your question is bordering on that, is hinging on that. The best way to make it happen is this, that the citizens themselves, first and foremost, should have interest in encouraging those who they feel have what it takes to govern well, be enlisted in the contest or in the race for candidacy. You have been a presenter at the Citizen FM. A lot of people know you. So it begins with you too. That if you have looked around you, you say, wait, I have known so much about politics and politicking. I feel if I'm elected the local government chairman of my area, or if I'm elected to be the rep of my constituency, or the senator of my district, I have what it takes, considering my experiences I've gathered over the years and my level of exposure and interaction with people. You make yourself available long before the selection process. If we have credible people like you who show interest, first and foremost, in vying for those positions, what we do is to form our own groups, the various groups. Don't forget that a political party cannot function without the people. So it is this for this and this for that. So if we have this way of harnessing ourselves, bringing ourselves, converging ourselves, and now being able to say, you know, we have one person who can do it well for us, do it better than those that have been there, let's push this person. So the citizens should cultivate the habit of pushing capable person among them into political parties. Because the party needs the votes of the citizens. What I'm saying, if you have, like your group now, I will tell you that the NUJ is a community of intellectuals, printers and brokers combined together. Nothing stops the NUJ looking at what has been happening in Nigeria and say, oh, somebody from the Punch, somebody from Citizen FM, somebody from Channel, somebody, I want to run. And that community support the person. And when the community support the person, the community of journalists now sending that person to these parties is a strong statement. But what we do in Nigeria is that we all lack interest. We want a change. We lack interest. We allow the politicians themselves to be the one indicating interest. It's just recently that you started seeing people from the private sector indicating interest. And you know this the political entrepreneurs themselves, they have this way of making it very difficult for them. They first start by running them down. You need to learn by belonging to the party and taking no role, taking no positions. For how long? And you people have been doing it as political entrepreneurs. You have ruined us. So if we cultivate the habit of saying, you see what? Political parties are vying for elections or electoral seats of position should be what the citizens, the civil society should have interest in. Then we start first by identifying those among us who are capable, who have the capacity to vie for some position, and we start pushing them through the NGOs, pushing them through the CSO, pushing them through the professional association. For example, somebody could come from the NMPA, somebody should come from the NMA. But because we have this nonchalant attitude of just believing, you know, even if their team, they own the system, they know what to do, you discover that a man will finish, he will hand over to his son. Look at what is happening now. There are some governors going out today. Their children have already won seats into the National Assembly.
Okay,
comrade, it just become a family dynasty.
Comrade, just a minute. With this picture you've painted, how much of a damage have issues like religion and tribalism done to our polity?
Yeah, a lot of damage, huge one. And that's why we need to start remodeling our political culture. I am telling you that, well, I speak for my faith. I cannot speak for Islam. If you have brought in a Muslim, let the Muslim person speak for his faith. As an election monitor and observer, I have seen people from my faith distort the message of Christianity just to suit the purpose of the person they are supporting to become elected. I have seen people compromise, not because they are hungry, but because they are greedy. And a lot of these people are big ministers of God. Politics should be different from religion. I think the best thing religious people should do is to look out for their members they can trust, who have the uprightness to actually lead with all patriotism and sense of accountability and project and present them. You know, because of the fact that some of these people haven't stolen our word, end up paying homage to some of these religious leaders. It's one of the reasons why they do those things that they do. They use their pulpit to preach and campaign for a man who has not done well for the people as a senator over the past 12 years. And these people have at least been marked the pulpit and have been in services where pronouncements and announcements have been made. And I would just be shocked because I know a lot of politicians, these so-called men of God have supported, and I know these politicians, they have never served the people well. So now, politics should not be a tool to oppress the civil society, because, religion rather, should not be a tool to further oppress the civil society. You know, what makes religion very susceptible is the fact that too many people tend to lose their common sense when they hear a statement or another, or an instruction, when they receive another or an instruction or a command from the person they look up to as their spiritual leader. That means some people are so influential that they have the capacity to stand on the pulpit and ask for their own members to vote for the wrong person. The members will know this person is the wrong person, but because their spiritual head have spoken, they just go. It works like that in my faith, the Christianity, and I know it works like that in Islam, even more. So what I'm trying to say, these people should realize that by doing that, they own God an explanation, and they will also be accountable to God. Because at the end of the day, they get benefits from these big top politicians, then the lives of their members is more impoverished. So religion should not be a tool to drive or promote bad leadership, because when those who lead us, who are supposed to sharpen the conscience of our political leaders to be transparent and be kind-hearted enough to produce good leadership, are still the ones encouraging them, in the act of plundering our wealth and inflicting artificial pains and sorrows on the people, is not good enough. So we need to go back and reorientate our people based on the fact that we need to change that culture of people using religion as a tool for political campaigns. And these dubious politicians, they are very much aware of that. So what they do is that in their habit of bad leadership, they keep a very cordial relationship with religious leaders. Okay. But again, it is the office of the citizens that should lead that advocacy, because they are the people who are the members of these leaders, religious leaders, because you cannot be a renowned religious leader if you do not know those, if you don't have members as your followers.
Okay, Comrade, you said there needs to be a reorientation of occupiers of that office, the office of the citizen of the Federal Republic. Now, let's start from the basis. What are the questions to ask? What is the template for considering candidates, for example, in an election by the occupier of this office?
It's very simple. Don't forget that the people who lead, they are members of every community where you find people. I hope you know, I'm from Edo State now. That is my state, from Eastern Northeast local government. I don't know which state you are from or which local government you are from, but let me just use one as an example. If you are from Kaduna North local government, you can never come to Edo State and come to Eastern Northeast to now vie for a seat as a House of Assembly member or a House of Rep member.
What if you were born there? What if you were born there?
If you were born there, that means they know you there. What I'm saying, the total stranger who was not born there, who did not do, who is not known there, who have nothing to do with the people there, cannot just come and say, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Even if you were born there, my brother, they gave back to you in my community, in my local government. You left my local government when you were 10 years old. You are coming back at 50 to vie for the House of Representatives. Except the election is rigged for you, you can never win because they don't know you. They can't cast their vote for you. So what I'm now responding to your question, you ask a question like, how can the citizens occupying the office of the citizens be instrumental to projecting the right people as aspirants and who will eventually emerge as candidates? That was your question. You get what I'm saying? So I'm saying, by their people, themselves, who know those who live among them, those who live with them. That's where we look at the track records. That's where we look at the competency of that person, the capacity of that person. What is capacity? The ability to make happen, the ability to bring into being, the ability to create possibilities. That is capacity. Now, if you see a man, for example, who he was even born in that place, but did not grow up in that place, even if the man lives in Abuja, if you look through the man's career, you would have been happy that the man, though he doesn't visit home often, he is making your community and your tribe proud in Abuja or in Washington, D.C. Now, the people themselves, if they want to be sincere, they know who have the capacity, the reputation, the good name, and the good way to lead well. But do you know the problem the citizens themselves have? Even when they have identified your potential, they are still part of the wrong political culture who believes it must be by money. You can become elected. And that's why, regardless of your capacity, you come out to want to vie for an office. The first question you see some funny people ask is, does he have the money? Does she have the money? But thank God, that does no longer exist today as a factor, because the revolution that took place during the election, you saw people, Okada rider, they want seats. You saw people, I saw a lot of people who could not want, I know of 5 House of Rep members, they couldn't print their forms. They couldn't, print their flyers. People had to give them money under the Labour Party. But the revolution came and elected them. They defeated those that have been stealing our money for 10 to 12 years. So what we are saying, responding to your question accurately, is that the civil society is synonymous to the office of the citizen. I hope you know that.
Okay.
Now, they know the right people who live with them. The right people who can you select when you have a team of 12 people, for 11 players and 1 goalkeeper. You know who is the best striker. You know who is the best attacker. When you have 3 goalkeepers, you are taken to the World Cup. Goalkeeper number 1, if number 1 is wounded, and you are playing with a team like Argentina or Brazil, when the first goalkeeper is injured, then among the 3 other ones left, the players know who should replace him. You know why? Because they live with them, they live among them. So the people should be sincere enough to look at those within and among them, find out the ones with the capability and capacity to give them that good governance they desire, and they support the person. Supporting him means presenting him first to, look, the time has come for the citizens, as a matter of meritocracy, having found somebody, you make presentation of that person to the political party, and also be first and enforce your demand or requirement.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Comrade Kennedy Yere, National Convener, Civil Society Committee for Anti-Fraud Election Security. It's always a pleasure at having you on Insight.
Thank you, my brother.
All right, so that's our package on Insight. Today, the program returns on Monday with another edition, and hopefully on Monday we will have a live transmission of the inauguration of the president here in Abuja. My name is Lawrence UMOETTE. Enjoy the rest of your day.
93.7 Citizen FM.
Let's talk